And good morning, everyone. Today we are talking about something very important. It's not easy to talk about, but it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had, and that is having to do with addiction and recovery. We have three handsome gentlemen back with us this morning: Greg Hanley, Alex Rahici, and Daniel Baldwin with Soba Recovery. They're back. And they always smell so good. Thank y'all. You do. You always smell. You come in the studio, I'm like, oh, that smells so nice. Thanks for being here. It's always good to see y'all.
Morning.
You too.
Okay, I want to start with some trending topics. And this is actually an article that you posted on your Facebook page, Greg, because we are Facebook friends, yesterday. And it had to do with the Harrison, New York Police Department, that they were giving heroin addicts a pass on charges if they seek treatment. How do you feel about that? Because I know you see this day in and day out. Do you think this is a good move on their part?
Yeah, it's our program.
Yeah.
So we're working with the Harrison Police Department. So instead of them throwing these kids, usually, or young adults in jail, they're calling one of our representatives, and then we're getting them in treatment.
So they have an option.
Yeah, the option is go to jail
Yeah.
or go to treatment and get better, because most of the charges that they're getting are drug related.
Right.
And they have so many overdoses in that area of the country that we now have a hospital program in 3 of the hospitals in the same county, which they're taking action. So if somebody is Narcan and goes to the hospital, they call our team, and we go out and meet with them at the hospital and see about getting them in treatment.
And you know, we all know the saying, you can pay me now or you can pay me later.
Right.
And we'll say this, Alex and Greg answering the phone many, many times for years, will tell a parent, either you're going to put him in now or her in. And so the Harrison Police Department has seen this as they're going to come across their desk in a year or two, and it's going to be something even more serious. Yeah. Or they're going to commit crimes in order to get the money. You know, so before it becomes a violent crime, whatever, and it's struggling, let's reinstitute this kid into the community as a responsible, sober kid, as opposed to having him come across the desk and end up going to prison.
So I'm sure, and I know it's still in the beginning stages, but as far as they decide to go, they don't want to go to jail, they would rather go to recovery. What are the requirements at that point? They need to finish, you know, because I know you want to make sure they get through the whole program.
Yeah, they just got to be ready to go.
And that's the other thing I was going to ask you. What if they're not ready?
So they call it a nudge from the judge, and you know,
a recommendation.
Yeah, a lot of people, they don't realize that they're ready until they get there. And I know
that's a pretty good rock bottom. Being
say,
arrested, having a choice.
Yeah, when you have that choice. But the cool thing is that they're recognizing it as a mental health problem and not a criminal situation.
Agreed.
And you know, it's about time. Now the bigger problem that we're running into is that the insurance companies only want to give 15 days of treatment now.
If we're lucky, we get 15 days.
Yeah, and so Daniel is, I was talking to him yesterday, and we're going to see about talking to some of the governors in the states. We went to the Senate and we went to the House and talked to them about seeing if they could help to kind of nudge the insurance companies to help out a little bit more, because you would expect to get a little more time than 15 days.
Well, I think it's worse than that. I think what we really need is we need the governor of Texas to take a look at this situation and understand that it's an epidemic and an emergency. And he needs to pass some type of legislation that says, you must give them this coverage. You must tell the insurance companies in this state that we're losing our youth. We need the governor of Texas to help us, because this is going to be known as the heroin generation. As I'm a baby boomer, mark my words, if we don't take action fast and do something to get some emergency legislation, we're sending these kids back out there after 15 days. They just relapse and get in trouble again. We can't service this community unless we keep them in there long term.
And speaking of this, you know, they're doing it in New Jersey, and it is the SOBA program there. We would like to do this in San Antonio. San Antonio would really benefit from something like that.
And I know we talk about the heroin epidemic almost every month when you're here, and I still believe people have no idea how bad it truly is, and that it's everywhere. It's not just in certain zip codes. It's everywhere.
It's an epidemic.
Yeah.
So, and the government from the podium they're calling them that. If it was like they think of the Zika virus or whatever the
Ebola.
The Ebola, and it might hurt 4 people. This took out 45,000 last year, and they need to treat it as such. And the insurance companies need to step up and do their part. And what they've done over the last 2 years, because of this as an epidemic now, is they've made it harder for us to get days. They've made it incredibly difficult to get paid, and they've shortened the length of time instead of extending it. And long-term treatment is what works.
Right.
It is a
More than 28 days, and they're only giving 15.
Well, it was I was in the office, and we were in a big argument, and yesterday with one of the major insurance people. They were getting mad that they would lower the level of care. So they would have somebody in residential treatment and detox for 14 days, and then they would want them to go to outpatient. And I wouldn't do it. And I said, I'm not going to move people before they're ready to move. And so they said, well, we're not going to pay you then.
So please understand, so this is explained properly. So Greg has a program and Soba has a program that's a 30-day program. They're only going to cover 15 days, and then they'll pay for outpatient, which is less than half. Greg says, that's okay, I'll take less than half, then keep them in this program for 30. And then they tell him he can't do that. They said that's against the law for you to do that.
You can't even help them.
We can't even eat the money and help the kid.
Just send them home
and
hope they come back every 3 days for a couple hours, which is ridiculous. And that the things that are underlying the issues and the things that people go through before they get to us. I mean, you can imagine that, especially for a young lady, treatment is like one of the last options. Before I'm going to send my daughter to treatment, it's got to be really bad usually, and a lot of times really bad things have happened to them. You can't fix that in 15 days. In about a week, they're just getting, the drugs out of them and getting their sea legs, and then they say, time to go. Yeah. I can't imagine calling a parent and saying to pick it up.
So the chief of the fire department up in my sister's town in upstate New York said 3 cases came into the United States of Ebola, and they spent nationwide over $100 million in preparation and bracing themselves for this disease. Millions of people are suffering from this addiction to opiates, and they're afraid to spend enough money for them to stay and get healthy. It's insane.
No, and I know, and I want to talk about this so much more, you guys, and we will continue this conversation after a short break. More with Soba Recovery. Stick around. We'll be right back.
No one is perfect. We all have our inner struggles. It may be alcohol, drug, or any type of addiction. Soba Recovery Center is here to offer free help. You can get the help and free information by calling right now from the privacy of your own home. Don't let alcohol, drug, or any addiction ruin your life. If you or a loved one have alcohol, drug, or any addiction, get help by calling right now. Soba Recovery Center. Most private insurance accepted.
Soba Recovery, Greg Hanley, Alex Rahici, and Daniel Baldwin. And I just want to go over some statistics, and these are, I think a lot of people don't realize how bad the heroin epidemic is. So since 2000, drug overdose deaths have increased 200%. In 2014, the number of drug-related deaths in the U.S. was over 47,000. This makes it the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States, and that is why you are so passionate about something being done. And I know that the fact that insurance isn't willing to pay for the full recovery process is a huge problem and something you're trying to change.
Yeah. Well, Pfizer, like one of the largest companies that makes prescription drugs,
Right.
they finally, in the last couple of weeks, came out with an announcement saying that, yes, we do know that opiates are addictive, and they have to put a new label on them. So
Okay, that's baby
it's
steps.
interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Warning,
a little late in the game for that.
Warning, don't walk across the thin ice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
They, people need to call. They need to speak up. And it was, so when I'm taking a look at what to do, and I'm sitting in the office, I go, so how am I supposed to tell
a parent or a mom, yeah, come pick up your daughter. She's been here 14 days. Insurance won't cover the 15th day. When we know
How do
that
you
they're
do it?
just
Listen.
You don't.
What you're seeing is, you're seeing a man who's dedicated his entire life to try to help people and is willing to even forego the amount of money he makes. But don't put him out of business. If you can pick up a phone and call the governor's office. You can write an email to the governor of the state of Texas. More people will die in this country in the next 12 months of opiate overdoses than died in the entire Vietnam War. Over 58,000 people will die this year. It has to stop. Texas is a big, big state with 3 of the top 10 largest cities in it. You're going to be one of the leaders in this category. You've got to do something. Contact the governor of Texas and tell him he needs to take action, for sure.
So you think the first thing they need to do is make it a state issue?
Yeah.
Because I know that
It needs to be,
Washington is trying to do something. I know that this week they
were
asked
gonna talk
Congress for
about it, yeah.
$1.1 billion, and this was to go towards this,
48
right?
million was supposed to come to Texas over the next 2 years. That's what they were saying.
Well, if they were going to spend that money right, they would offset the insurance cost.
Yeah.
So when we went to the Texas Department of
Department.
Insurance and talked to them, they said that they're just under siege with the things that are going on with the open. It's like you would expect that if you bought an insurance policy and are paying good money
Right.
for mental health and it has drug treatment listed on it, that you would expect to get what you need, and you would expect the people who are providing that treatment to decide how long and what is necessary.
Which would be you and
Yeah, we
Soba
end up, so
deciding
when we
how long
call and
someone
fight,
needs.
we talk to somebody in India or in the Philippines, and that they'll sit 2 hours on the phone trying to get somebody an extra 2 days of treatment, and it is, and the government, what their idea is they're going to give them another drug that's going to offset the cravings, that when they run out of the drug, and by the way, the new one that they inject, it costs $3,000 a month. And
Who's going to pay
and
for
they're-
that?
Well, sooner or later, they run out. The minute the people run out of those drugs, they're back on heroin, or they're back on their dope, and they overdose. And it's like the wrong way to go about this. This is costing the government over $1 billion a year, and the states are paying the money for all of the incarcerations and the collateral damage. I mean, you think of how many work hours are lost from people trying to get their kids help or finding the, all of this stuff. Put it towards the insurance and keep providers in business, because they are going under like crazy right now.
And then what happens when providers like Soba aren't there? Then people have no options.
Yeah, that's
That's
Jail-
what
jail's an
it's going to
option.
come to. Or-
Well, you wouldn't take a kleptomaniac and say the answer is to put handcuffs on them, keep their hands behind their back to stop them from stealing. And this is what they're asking us. You need to get them and change what's going on so that they make the choice not to do anymore. And that's treatment, period.
Yeah.
Listen, it's no coincidence that the only program that the court will order you to is to go to 12-step meetings. The court can remand you to go to that. Why? Because that can help you make that choice and guide you when you're in a community. We're a community. We're a community. We're a team and a club.
Well, the court remands people also to a year of treatment.
Yeah.
So they've remanded many people to me for 6 months or a year, and they go, we need a year of inpatient. Well, you can't afford a year of
Right.
inpatient. Yeah, there's no, but the same thing that they use for the doctors. So if a doctor gets on drugs, they have a 3-year program that they have to go through. If they complete it, it's 100% success rate.
Wow. So that shows you need the time, and I know we've talked about that a lot. We got to take a quick break, but we'll talk more about this when we come back, more with Soba. Welcome back, everyone, and I want to get right back to what we were talking about earlier. We've got Greg Hanley, Alex Ricci, and Daniel Baldwin with Soba Recovery. We were talking about the fact that insurance is not paying for people to get treatment, and we actually had one of our viewers just send in a question. Her name is Zenas.
His name.
His name is Zenas, and he says, what can we do to help you guys, get through to the insurance companies. What can people do? Because it's going to take a movement, is it not?
Well, here's what we have the federal government, and it's an election year, so everyone's talking up a big game. I'll believe that when I see it, when they pass certain bills that are going to put billions of dollars towards us and everything else. But right now, we're in this emergency condition right now. So the governor of Massachusetts has taken action statewide in his state. He realizes his responsibility is for his state. I would say what I suggested earlier. Governor Abbott here is a proactive guy. He's for the people. He's been elected, and he's an action type of guy. Let him know how you feel. I mean, I would email, phone calls, letters.
And we've done it. We're not just telling other people to do it. We've also filed with him.
But you need other people to do it. You
filed complaints with the governor's
He needs
office.
to know that this is a concern for parents here, so that he can justify why he needs to take emergency action and pass some type of legislation that tells the insurance companies this is not going to happen in the state of Texas.
Not
It's just
okay.
not going to happen.
And we're still providing the same long-term treatment. We just aren't getting paid for
You
a
are
lot of it.
continuing to give people treatment, to treat people for the full amount of time, and you're only getting paid for maybe 14 days.
Oh, no,
15 days, right?
Please
You're
understand
not even
something.
getting
And I
that.
get
Please
in
understand
trouble for
something.
that.
As soon as he turned around and said, I'm going to go ahead and eat the money and let them stay, even though you're only going to cover 14, because I'm not sending these kids home to die. And they die. Many of them, we watched them die. The mother calls up, how's he doing? I'm checking in. He didn't make it. My nephew, my mother's sister's dying wish of cancer to my sister Beth was, please help Benny and Johnny. Benny died a month ago in Florida. Didn't make it.
I'm so sorry.
So it has touched us personally, all of us, this relationship, and we get it every day. So Greg decides to eat the money and say, don't worry about it. You can pay me the smaller amount of money outpatient. They said, now we're going to audit you and freeze all the money. They're not paying him for the 14 days. They've decided to put it to him. He has millions and millions of dollars being held up in accounts receivable that they're refusing. Why? Because they want to squeeze him out. They want to shut down his places. That's what the insurance companies are doing to a program and a man that is trying to save the lives of your kids. It's illegal and it's ridiculous.
It's not just me, it's everybody.
Yeah, it's everybody.
They sent letters out to everybody, and it's just it's an epidemic. It's not, and people need to know about this, because they expect better than that. When you're paying for your policy, when you're signing
That's
up
why you
with
have
these
it. That's why you
companies,
pay for it.
Yeah, you expect better. And I know that he had a relative that they did the same thing to, and I said, now, you see what it feels like? Yeah. And he got on the phone with them. But if you get an actor to call in, they'll give you 25 more days.
Yeah, I
and
think
they'll
you
give
got a lot
30
more than
days.
25
Yeah,
days.
so it was my niece, and she was in there, and they were told she was removed. I got on the phone with the case manager, and I said, I will stand with a sign in front of CNN and name you by name and name your company by name, and I'll bring a bunch of my Hollywood friends down. Watch what happens to your stock when I do that. And now, sadly, I would have to say that to a woman who was dying and in good faith paid her policy. I mean, I've never heard of that. If you bang your car up and there's damage done to it and you have the full coverage, a reasonable amount of time to get the estimate, get the car fixed, get it back running, you get a loaner car. If they said they weren't going to do that and you had an undrivable car to get your kids to school, wouldn't that be outlandish?
Irate, it would be ridiculous.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Well, except it's people.
Well,
Yeah.
So it'd be like,
But I know what you're saying. You're paying
you
for it,
need
you're not
cancer
getting it.
treatment for a year. You need to go in and have so many chemos. And they go, you know what? Even though the doctor says that you need 50 chemos, we're going to give 3. And good luck to you. And it's just kind of, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
So people need to call. That's what you're urging
Yeah.
them to do. Call your governor.
Email, write.
Call Austin.
Listen, if you did the following, and I know that these two men would agree with this, your kid isn't somebody who you suspect is using opiates. Or ask them honestly. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic, your race, your creed, your color. Ask your kid, is there heroin in your high school, honey? Watch what they say. Watch.
Scary. It's scary to find out the answer. Okay, one quick break, and then we'll be back, and we'll talk more with Soba. So stick around. We'll be right back. And we are back with Soba Recovery, and I just want to, we have just a little bit of time left, guys, but I know what we've been talking about is so important, and you need people to take action. What do you need people to do so that we can get people the help they need and that insurance will cover the help that they need?
They need to call.
Yeah, call the governor's office, call the TDI, Texas Department of Insurance.
What do they say?
File a complaint about the insurance. File a complaint that insurance isn't covering for treatment, especially if this is affecting your family, which it is a lot here in Texas.
What if it's someone who doesn't have someone that they're trying to get help for, but this is just something that is speaking to them and they want to help make a difference?
There's not a single person in the state of Texas that doesn't know someone that's been touched by this epidemic right now. Not one. So with that said, it is affecting you in some way or another. It's a niece, a nephew, a cousin, a husband, a relative, a next door neighbor kid that you watch grow up that's now banging heroin in the bathroom of his high school, and he's going to die.
Well, the other thing they're doing is making these huge policies so people with insurance need $20,000 on top of their insurance to come in.
Which is a question that just came in from Liza.
Yeah,
so.
if you do a hardship, you get in trouble. I mean, it's, you know, we'll still help the same way that we always have.
Because that's the kind of man you are. And guys, you can always give them a call, Soba Texas, 24/7. Guys, thank y'all so much for everything you're doing, Greg. Such a good guy.